Welcome to the 494th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Welcome, and thank you for listening. I hope all of you affected by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton are doing well. It's been a 1-2 punch down in Southwest Florida. I dodged a bullet here at home base again. We had water come up to about 3 feet of the house. We had winds. We lost power for about a day. But overall, yard damage, water went down. I don't understand how the worry was that high tides were at 7 a.m. and the water was still coming up, but about 1 a.m. the water went down. The wind was blowing the water on shore. The wind kept blowing till about 3 o'clock, but somehow everything reversed direction, and I'm very grateful for that. So my house was lucky, not everybody in Port Charlotte was. There was a lot of damage, a lot more water that came in, and unfortunately people that live in low-lying areas that had water with Helene had water again with Milton, so a lot of damage. So it's very demoralizing to clean up and then be hit again. Like I said, some people were out of power for more than 1 day, several days, and people to the north of us out even longer. This was the first year that we ever experienced the water surge. The other hurricanes that have come to this area kind of came in a direction that sucked the water out before the hurricane came on land, so it was mainly dealing with the things that occur with high winds. Ian a couple years ago was a Cat 5 hurricane, so the winds were very high, and so there's widespread destruction of roofs and trees down and power outages. We didn't see quite that this year. There was some destruction, but not a lot of roof destruction. Some signs were down, and again, power here and there, but it was the water surge that was so bad. And I got to tell you, that's kind of, it certainly is more scary because there's nothing you can do if the water starts to come up and I actually got my survey out, and my house is 13 feet above sea level, and the expected surge was 8 to 10 feet. We didn't get that, but I was pretty confident that the house would stay dry at 10 feet. Again, at one point, if they miscalculated and it was over, there was a good chance that we would have taken in some water, but luckily it was less than the 8 feet. So I'd say we were someplace around 5 or 6 feet in my area. So very fortunate and grateful for that. We have a water distiller, so the distiller can be plugged into the generator, so we had fresh water and didn't have to do bottled water, and that's a blessing. We did fill large carboys up with water in case there was an issue with the plumbing to be able to flush toilets, but we didn't have to use that. Being ultra runners, we have filtration devices. We could have filtered that, but we didn't have to do that. I have a gas stove, so I could cook on a gas stove. Coffee pot can be plugged into a generator. If you live in Florida, you have lots of flashlights, headlamps, batteries to go with them, solar chargers, and chargers that can be charged on with electricity. So that's a source of light. The Instant Pot can also be used when the power is out. You can plug that directly into the generator via power strip. So that's a device that is very, very handy if you live in an area prone to losing power. So before the hurricane, I made sourdough pumpkin bagels. So I had those frozen and put them in packs of 2 to pull out. I actually made a loaf of bread during the hurricane. When the power came on, I baked it, but I had it mixed up, ready to go. We had potatoes, cauliflower, and tofu one night for dinner. We were able to have pancakes because of the gas stove and tofu scramble. We had oatmeal and fruit. I had lots of fruit in the house, so we were able to have that. I did a split pea soup with potatoes, celery, and carrots. and I made a chili that we had over pasta. So certainly we did well from a nutrition standpoint. To keep the water out of the house, at the entrances, we put Visqueen with bricks over top of the Visqueen and tape the Visqueen up the side of the doors or up the side of the garage doors. Luckily, we didn't have to test the theory, but that's what our boundary was. The generators were ready to go with extension cords, so we've done the drill enough. We know exactly what we're going to hook up. We hook generators to the refrigerators so that we can keep our food fresh. My dogs are carnivores, so they have their own freezers, so we don't want to lose that. Their food is actually more expensive than ours, so we certainly don't want to lose their food. We also made sure we had plenty of gas and gas cans, 5-gallon gas cans, so that we wouldn't have to go try to find gas anytime soon if the power were to stay out. That's always one of the bigger problems when the power goes out, is where to find gasoline. The trucks can't get in, and then even if the power comes on, sometimes the service stations have to be cleared electrically before they can use their gas pumps, so lines can really back up. So it's great to have a generator, but if you have no way to run it, then it's not so good. I noticed the day before people were at the hardware store, some generators run on propane. I guess some grills run on propane, so people were getting propane tanks filled. Cleaning up after the hurricane is a good cross-training workout, so raking, pulling, stacking debris, putting chairs back out, wrapping up cords, putting them back, putting generators back. It becomes just as much on the way back as it does on the way out. So it's kind of like a really short Christmas holiday without the presents. You get all your stuff out, you put your decorations out, and then you put them right back after the hurricane. But very happy to put the generators back with the power come on. It's nice to have generators. The hum of them is just not something you want to hear. So you go from hearing winds howl with the hurricane to generators buzzing in the neighborhood. So it makes for a long couple of days. We managed to get our runs in every day except the day of the hurricane. And the next, I guess in the next day, I think we did a little bit of a walk the next day before cleanup, so to speak. But we managed to get in some moderate runs over the weekend. The temperatures are actually cooler down here after the hurricane, so that made it really nice. So we're still on for the Rattler in Austin, the first day of November, which is on a Saturday. That'll be a 50K. The next race up then will be the Long Haul 100. So training is still going on. I'm still doing my strength training. That's going well. I think that's, again, really important to maintain running for a long time, is to have that strength program, especially when I'm looking at doing some ultras that involve the mountain ultras. So I'm actually enjoying that and seeing some results from the strength training. If you'd like a program or like to have Nathan consult with you, Nathan is a strength and conditioning coach at the collegiate level, but he also does training for all walks of life, from moms to kids trying to get in college to people training for marathons or strength training events or even jiu-jitsu. So if you have some desire to work with a trainer and you're comfortable with a gym and the equipment or bands, or you know what you'd like to do, he's available. You can actually email him at nathan@drdulaney.com. While I'm at shameless plugs, this month is a National Cookbook Month. I don't know who comes up with these things, but certainly we have our plant-based wellness cookbook, but Addie is actually coming up with a ebook that is geared towards it's breast cancer month as well. So we have a cookbook coming out that has recipes and information on how to prevent and decrease the recurrence of breast cancer through nutrition. So you want to look for that, as it's going to come out on our website here in the next week or so. I'm going to have her on to talk about some of the recipes, but they're really, really good ones that we've both enjoyed. You can email Addie if you want a dietary consult at addie@drdulaney.com. And finally, we're at episode 494, but we're approaching 500. And for episode 500, If you'd like a shout out, email me at jami@drdulaney.com. And longtime listeners, I'd love to acknowledge your support of the podcast over the years. So go ahead and send me an email, maybe a question or two if you want, but certainly just your name. I'd like to give you a shout out and appreciate you all for listening. I wanted to share a little bit about something that I've been contemplating over the last couple of days about mindset, and that is your mind's reaction or perception of pain. You hear all the time, getting old is not for the weak or sissies, and everything falls apart as you get older, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're slowing down. You have aches and pains. You don't look like you used to. You can't do the things like you used to do, so you might as well just give up. And it's really easy to kind of go down that path when something stirs up. The issue that I've ridden for about a year now is my ankle issue. When, last January when I got injured, I've had trouble making it go away, and it's kind of been cranky with me for quite some time. And at times it's hard to believe that I'll have a run, or I would have a run like I did before. Am I going to chronically be slow? Am I always going to run in discomfort? And is there something wrong with that? And should we be pain-free? And what exactly does that mean? And I think the connotation is that don't do it because it might hurt. Be careful, you might get injured. There's nothing you can do about it. We're going to decline, strap in. It's going to be a slippery slope. People like to jump on that bandwagon, and they kind of like the pity party. Or they want everybody into that commiseration type of thing. And so we don't have to do anything because we're getting old, and there's nothing you can do to prevent it anyway. So you might as well just live life large and have everything done for you, and don't exert yourself, and eat what you want, because it's just a matter of time that, it's just going to keep getting worse. And there's really not much support to that theory, actually. You can find people all over the place that have done quite impressive feats at advanced ages. You just don't hear about them quite as much because all that other noise is in the road for the most part. And you actually get to choose. And a quote that I heard earlier this week from Lane Norton, who is a PhD and a power lifter, he said, when you are old, you will have pain. You can be strong and have pain, or you can be weak and have pain. I choose strength. And that elicited a fury of responses, deeming him, and what it came from is that he has come back as a power lifter after numerous herniated discs and injuries to compete in a very, very high level of powerlifting competitions. And people are saying, well, you're just injuring yourself, and it's not really worth it. And the question comes if being very active makes you injury prone, or it's just part of the sport. But we also know that strength is related to longevity. So sitting in a chair and melting is probably not going to do anybody any favors either. Is there some place of moderation? Well, that's kind of for the individual. But I think that our fear of discomfort inhibits our quality of life, perhaps. An injury now or then, something to come back with, is also a win. It's the comeback story. The process can be a little bit irritating at times, but after the comeback, you can come back and be pain-free. I've talked to lots of people that are, a lot older than I am, that are doing very long distances, and people that are running faster and lifting heavier, and it is a possibility. It's the limits are put on between our ears more than what's actually possible. And the point is, you get to choose. And I'd rather have some pain and discomfort and some crankiness in my ankle on the way out in the morning than to sit home and to never run again and never to enjoy life and the scenery that we get to see when we're doing these mountain races and these trails. And you get to choose your mindset of what is worth it for you. But leading the conservative or following a very conservative path often is not without discomfort anyway. I have lots of members or patients over the years that didn't do anything, and then when they go to do something, then they get an immediate injury if it's just a little thing like walking or stepping on the stair just wrong, or lots of little things, tweaking your back in the shower, so to speak. So the fear of discomfort, if it inhibits your quality of life, maybe you should reconsider it, and perhaps relish some aches and pains. Certainly we were tired at the end of the day after going for runs and working in the yard and lifting and pulling and tugging, but it was great to be able to be outside and to do things and to be self-sufficient, and not fear for ourselves because there wasn't anybody else to take care of us or our property. So I think we put on a lot of limits. Again, it's between our ears so quick that we don't even realize what limits we put on ourselves. And you could translate that to weight loss. I've always been heavy. I've always yo-yoed. It's in my family. My genes are bad. On and on and on. We tell ourselves this story, and we're very, very good at sticking to it. But the question is, what if you're wrong? What if you could choose something different? And I think it's, it's an exercise to think about. We see what we're looking for, and we end up acting what we're looking for. If you see yourself as not being athletic, you're probably not going to be athletic. If you see yourself as injury prone, then you'll be looking for the aches and pains. On the other hand, if you see a few aches and pains as a badge of honor and something to overcome and a sign that you need to work on an area and to become stronger, it's a whole different process. The sentence, "I could never blank," is basically the story that you're telling yourself and limiting your own achievements and perhaps quality of life. I forgot about the bags of mulch. We also use bags of mulch over top of the Visqueen to hold things down. And the reason why I'm bringing up now is that, after the storm, we took those bags of mulch and carried them and put them in our raised beds and in the shrubs and the long things. So we carried the wet bags of mulch, and it was a good farmer's carry. It was good cross training. Was there stress sitting out the hurricane? Sure there was. We had doubts at different times. Should we stay or should we go? But again, we worked the problem. We knew we were 13 feet in the air. We knew how high the water had come before, what the weather forecast was, what we were doing to prepare, what our second line of action would be. We knew we had plenty of food and water and gasoline to take care of ourselves. We knew we could physically take care of ourselves. So, yes, there was an uncomfortableness about what if, but we knew we were going to be able to face the challenges that laid ahead. Grateful that we came through without injury to ourselves. That's the number one thing. When you're going through it, something you don't have any control over. My heart goes out to those who have lost loved ones in North Carolina and other places, to the hurricanes and the flash floods beyond their control. That's a devastation. But material items, repairing your house, it's pain, but if you have your health, you can pick up and go and do those things and repair things, and it'll be okay. I was first attracted to plant-based nutrition hearing Dr. Esselstyn talk of nitric oxide and how when we eat green leafy vegetables, it mixes with our saliva and the bacteria in our mouth, and we produce nitric oxide. And as we age or people have vascular disease, the blood vessels themselves, which used to produce nitric oxide, are incapable. and so that you can actually eat your way into health with green leafy vegetables and the nitric oxide production. Of course, the main sources of nitric oxide, green leafy vegetables: kale, Swiss chard, beet tops, all kinds of green, broccoli, cauliflower, collards, cabbage of any kind, bok choy, Napa cabbage, are the main sources. Some people don't realize that apples also have a potential source of to make nitric oxide. But what about bologna? People will argue on the internet, bologna, cured meats have nitrites, and is that the same thing as nitric oxide? And it's been argued for a long time that certainly red meat and cured meats are associated with increased risk of gastric cancer. And there is a pathway that nitrites go through to produce nitrosamines, which are carcinogens. But there's also a pathway where those nitrites actually become nitrates and ultimately nitric oxide. But what the people that, are proponents of the bologna and hot dogs don't tell you is that in the right environment, that might be a source of nitric oxide. But if the stomach pH is low, then that changes everything. And most of what happens to us happens in the process of the company that it keeps. Nothing happens in a vacuum. I've said it numerous times on the podcast. And greens are a pure source of substrate that go to make nitric oxide, whereas exogenous or chemical nitrites, again, are additives, food preservatives. It gives food the color, and again, in the wrong environment, does become a carcinogen. So in a chemistry lab, nitrites can become nitric oxide, but that's not usually the milieu of the body in people that are eating hot dogs, which we know animal protein increases the acidity of the stomach, increases a risk for abnormal mycobacteria such as H. pylori, increases peptic ulcer disease. On the other hand, kale and green leafy vegetables actually protect the stomach by improving blood flow to the gastric mucosa, decrease inflammation, decrease peptic ulcer disease, decrease clumping of platelets, and decrease myocardial infarctions. And certainly I have been witness to this phenomena over several years now, watching people have a handful of greens before they go out and exercise, and they don't have claudication, or they don't have chest discomfort, or gradually the peripheral arteries start to open up in the collaterals, and in just a short period of time they can resume activities where they couldn't do it before, eating the greens and nitric oxide that is pure, as opposed to a chemical version. So yes, in theory, bologna nitrites could become nitric oxide, but it's unlikely to, and certainly I would not advise having a piece of bologna and then going for a run if you have chest discomfort, because chances are in the fat milieu and the oxidation that occurs, the pathway of nitric oxide will ultimately be blocked, and chest pain will ensue. And vasoconstriction versus vasodilation will happen. So I really don't miss a day without getting my green leafy vegetables in. Even through the hurricane, we had cabbage. Cabbage is a wonderful vegetable in that it keeps. Even Napa cabbage keeps a long time. Green cabbage certainly keeps a long time. Red cabbage. You can make it into sauerkraut and ferment it right on the counter if you were to be without power for a long time. We make a dish with gnocchi, which is a potato stuffed pasta, along with cabbage and sauerkraut. So you get your greens in that way. I really enjoy a kale salad with lemon juice and some avocado, red pepper, and cucumber at lunchtime, maybe some edamame, or even add sweet potato. Good old cabbage, carrots, potatoes, celery, and white beans is a great dinner that warms up great. You can even make it more into a soup on warm-up. Cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, broccolini, cauliflower give an additional 1-2 punch with anti-cancer benefits. So we're providing a source of nitric oxide as well as antioxidants. So adding those to the mix is always good. A quick Asian slaw, so finely chopped cabbage, carrots. You can use peanut butter powder and some sweet chili garlic sauce to make a dressing. Makes it really good with some ginger, really good salad as well. Sprouts and microgreens are another way to fulfill some of your nitric oxide producing greens. Broccoli microgreens, you can get a cup of those. Doesn't take much room at all to give you a big nitric oxide producing potential. Constipation is completely eliminated in those who have a kale smoothie in the morning. And when I mean a kale smoothie, the blender is 3/4 of the way kale, water, blueberries, and a banana if you want. Blend that up and drink it, and your constipation woes will go away. Guaranteed fix. The other benefits of green leafy vegetable comes from chlorophyll, which gives it its green color. But there are many benefits and anti-cancer benefits from ingesting green leafy vegetables for their chlorophyll content, and how that actually works to decrease the production and growth of tumor cells. Pancreatic cancer is a cancer that is very aggressive and doesn't respond to much in the way of pharmaceutical treatments, but chlorophyll-containing leafy vegetables have been shown in vitro studies to decrease pancreatic cell proliferation. So there's no reason to put or to worry about getting too many greens in your diet. It's not possible to overdo it on the greens and do it from a variety of different sources. If for some reason you can't chew them, blend them in a blender and drink them. If you hate the taste, then pinch your nose and drink them anyway. And don't forget to eat the garnishes around your food. So eat those little pieces of parsley, little pieces of cilantro that's dressing up your food. It can be very, very good for you. You can make someone's taste buds like greens better by blending them into soups, or cooking them into soups, chopping them up very fine and adding them to burritos. So if you do rice and beans and peppers and make a burrito filling, and you put some finely diced kale in there, they're not going to taste the kale, but they're going to get the benefits. So it can be very beneficial to your family to start finding ways to sneak the greens in. Again, even if you are blending them and putting them into sauces, you can hide them. And surprisingly, over time, people start to acquire a taste for the greens just by having them introduced in ways that they can't really taste them. And remember, most of our thought processes on greens and lettuce and things like that are stories that we've told ourselves and choose to believe. So get that out of your head and eat your greens. My last blurb is a challenge to you. I challenge you on a daily basis to make a mental note of all the things you can do despite getting older, and all the things you can do better despite getting older. You are in control of the rule book for aging, and you get to write your own story. It doesn't have to be written for you, and you don't have to rely on the script of those sitting on the sideline. If you want to step up your game and join our practice and see what's really out there, give me an email, Jami, Jami, at drdulaney.com. You can go over to our website, drdulaney.com, and sign up today for a variety of different memberships, whether it's just access to our online program and content, or a dietary consult, a strength consult, or combination of the above. See what we have to offer. We have a huge website library with tons of recipes and activities to help you get started. But we'd certainly love to talk to you in person as well. Thank you, as always, for listening. Please share this podcast with your friends if you find it enjoyable. And if you'd like a shout out for the 500th episode, send me an email. I appreciate it. Thank you.